Started off, Azuma. Azuma is, well, for some reason, people insist on bringing it into ranked. And it's got a fair bit of health, and it's got some punch to it. The problem is, of course, it's very easy to kill in basically every ship. In fact, actually, let me boot up my EU client so we can show off some of these things. But it's fundamentally not a good ship. It's a D tier ship. It's got some gun caliber to it, which lets it overmatch super lights. It's got good shell velocity, and it's got a fair bit of health to it. The issue is, however, it's got a gigantic citadel, and it burns for 60 seconds, which means both cruisers have an easy time farming it, and battleships have an easy time devastating it, and even destroyers have an easy time torping it, because it's big and clunky and all of these issues. So, yeah, pretty easy D tier. Ibuki parks in D tier for similar reasons. It's got that IGN 203mm better dispersion. It's semi-stealthy. It's got torps, but the citadel is huge on it. The firing angles are poor. And yeah, this thing is generally just pretty easy to blow out of the water. Ibuki does really poorly against other cruisers. And in fact, both of these ships might have been placed into E tier if it wasn't for our special prize winner. The one ship I keep seeing on my teams in ranked, probably the worst ship you can bring to ranked, the expressively, absolutely monumentally garbage Takahashi, truly a ship for the biggest ape out there. People who for some reason voluntarily bring this thing despite being able to bring other cruisers. People insist on bringing this thing into ranked because they absolutely hate winning and they hate having their team win. They hate them being useful. They hate having DPM. They hate having anything that resembles being a useful cruiser. So they bring a Takahashi to grief everyone except the enemy team. So Takahashi, the only reason why these are in D is because Takahashi needs an own tier for itself. Because my god, that thing is an absolute steaming pile of shit, and if you bring it to ranked, unironically, you're absolutely demented, and there's no saving features, no saving grace. It's just a complete joke of a ship. Alaska, S tier, literally probably the only cruiser we're gonna pop straight into S tier. Underwater citadel, almost impossible to hit. Improved pin angles, this super nasty AP that overmatches light cruisers, can punch through and citadel battleships. The HE is scary, the radar is long. There's no carriers that can screw you over in tier 9 ranked, so yeah, GG. Nothing that can really mess you up. This for ranked, yes, this is tier 9 ranked. Cruiser ranked tier list. And yeah, no, Alaska is just an absolute monster. The only real weakness is that it burns for a long time. But getting to cook in Alaska, especially in ranked, is difficult because there's easy to disengage, easy to break vision, and once Alaska starts pushing into you, you're basically in for a world of absolute suffering. Let's see if we can put tier 9 cruisers here. Alaska, 27mm armor. So if you don't have 406s, aka if you're bringing 380mm guns, well, Alaska literally sits nose into you and laughs all the way to the bank because he can't be overmatched through the nose. The deck armor is 36, so you're not gonna get pen damage on that either. The citadel itself is, well, it's this thing down here. It's not this thing. This is just armor. The citadel sits underwater, so good luck scoring hits on this thing. You can get it, but it's exceedingly rare, and especially in drive-bys, this thing tends to eat a lot of overpens and just citadel you right back because 305mm guns. Equipment-wise, of course, heal, hydro, and that long-duration radar. With the modifier, you can run 42-second radar, which is, well, enough to kill or get full cap control of basically anything. A ridiculously strong ship. Easy S tier. Buffalo sits in this weird spot where you have the Baltimore. Baltimore is really good. Des Moines is super good. But then in between, Wargaming was like, man, if you make this entire tech tree this much fun and this good, what are people gonna be forced to spend their free XP on? And then someone was like, I have an idea. And that's how the Buffalo was born. Buffalo gets improved pen angles. It does have the super heavy AP. It also gets that nice 10 km 30-second radar. So it's got a fair few things going for it. This should be this, by the way, whatever. So it's got a fair few things going for it. The health pool isn't bad either. And against things that can't or match it, the 27mm plating is pretty nice. The issue is, however, it's got a pretty damn long reload on the guns, which means you end up having to use 2 turrets in the back as well, which you don't really want to do. But as soon as you start trying to use it, you expose this, which is an exposed citadel with 152mm plating, something that can be citadeled by basically everything. There's no real exceptions. You can also be nosing citadel pretty easily. There's no hidden plates whatsoever. If something overmatches you, it can citadel you straight through this. So if you're up against the overmatch, well, you're not going to have a fun time with a citadel ship like this. You're basically catching sits from everywhere. Kiting firing angles are not that good on the Buffalo either. And if you're forced to kite HE spamming the Buffalo, you're not going to have the best of times. That being said, there are significantly worse cruisers than this thing. And the combination of improved pen angles, armor, health, radar, and all of this does put Buffalo probably into, on this tier list, I'd probably put it into B tier. It's probably a B tier cruiser. It's significantly more useful than everything below it, but it doesn't quite come close to these guys above it. Seattle is, well, an American light cruiser. Doesn't have any armor. It's got pretty good DPM, but it's got, well, no armor, really shitty firing angles. I think it was pretty damn slow as well. It had a fair few issues with it. The biggest advantage really of the Seattle is that it does a lot of DPM. If you get to farm behind angles, and farm behind islands, which, considering the maps in rank, that happens somewhat often, you can actually pump out a lot of damage. But if you get seen, you get blown the fuck up. So it's basically a C tier ship. It's good at exploding, yeah. It's much more useful than these guys because, well, it can shit on DDs. It can pump out a lot of damage, it can farm a lot, but these guys cannot. I mean, Seattle has 100k more DPM than Azuma, for example, so it actually does damage. Seattle has that sit plate. Seattle has this. Oh yeah, it does have that. No, this is all exposed citadel. All exposed citadel. It's one big exposed citadel, the entire thing. Shit gets blown out of the water, but unlike the Ibuki, you actually don't have, you have these arcing shells, so you can park behind islands and just farm. But it does a lot of damage if it gets to, but it blows up really easily. Tulsa is much worse than Buffalo. The issue is, at first, when it first came out, we thought Tulsa was gonna be like tier 9 Des Moines. Holy shit, like everyone had really high hopes, like, oh shit, are we gonna get a tier 9 Des Moines? This is gonna be incredible. But what we ended up getting was pretty fucking far from it. While the armor nosing is pretty okay, the issue is with the 4 guns in the front is that you still have Des Moines' incredibly wonky dispersion, except with 2 turrets. Or two gun turrets. So your shells actually end up shooting all over the place. Your range is also garbage. You don't get that juicy 10 km radar that all the other heavy cruisers have, because, well, what is consistency for wargaming? I don't know. Instead, you get a 9 km radar. So suddenly a big advantage that would have been being able to stealth radar, well, that was just conveniently removed. I'm glad it's not stealth radar, to be fair, but I would have preferred the concealment to be worse and the radar to be the standard, because standardization was supposed to be one of the goals. Still, this thing, biggest issue is that it's supposed to be a Des Moines, but it doesn't actually have anywhere near the damage output. In fact, even when using all guns, you do less damage than a Buffalo. So even if you get to use the back turret, which isn't easy in the Tulsa, even if you get to use all your guns, you still have less DPM than a Buffalo. So yeah, it just doesn't compete. So Tulsa sits here in C tier with the Seattle. It just isn't nearly as good as the Buffalo. Vallejo, it's a raw damage farmer, but it is absolutely better than both Ibuki and Azuma. It's got people when people look at Vallejo, they think it's gonna get that it's gonna get those American Seattle angles where the shells take ages to land, but it doesn't actually. The shell velocity on the Seattle is, or sorry, on the Vallejo is, well, it's basically Alaska's shell velocity. So you can actually very efficiently farm in it. So it's not as bad as these, but it's doesn't really have a whole lot of utility besides being a kiting HE spammer. So we're gonna put it into C tier, especially for ranked. In randoms, I think it's maybe a bit better because there's more targets to farm and farming is generally more efficient. But in ranked, it's all about map control and getting kills quick. And Vallejo isn't that good at it. It doesn't really have a whole lot of utility. Drake. Shit, I kind of want to put Drake into B tier. Drake is a cruiser with a super heal, but wait, I don't have the Drake here on my list. I don't. But Drake has the same issue. Is Drake's issue once again in randoms? I think Drake is better than it is in ranked. The issue with playing it in ranked is that, well, it's a kiting HE spammer. It's 47k health with the perk. You got 50k. You actually get pretty good concealment. Your HE actually slaps. Like, you got 24% fire chance, you pen 59, which means you can pen basically every cruiser in the game and a lot of the battleships in the game. High fire chance, high HE pen, high HE alpha. You're obnoxious to take down, but your DPM isn't actually that good. Your DPM is pretty fucking garbage. I think it was, how garbage? It was really garbage. It was, you have less HE DPM than a Riga. So, yeah. Less HDP. Wow, I didn't realize it was that bad. I knew it was bad, but Jesus, that's terrible. Yeah, you have less HDPM than a Riga, and honestly, less fire starting than an Alaska. So, it's consistent, mostly because you pen a lot. But really, the big gimmick with this ship is the fact, obviously, you run Hydra for rank, is the super heal. You're really obnoxious to kill. You're really obnoxious to kill. Because you can sit generally pretty kited and just farm, and all the damage you take you can heal. But Drake is no Goliath. Goliath has that juicy, bigger, better, almost spaced armor going on for it. And Goliath tends to take less damage. The biggest issue here probably is the fact that you're sitting with your 25mm nose, which means every battleship in the game will overmatch you. Drake can't push battleships. Drake kind of struggles to push into other cruisers as well because, well, you're pretty damn slow and you can just be kited and farmed. Drake is good at only one thing, and that's kiting away and farming. Yeah, honestly, no, I can't put it into B. I don't think Drake is nearly as useful as Buffalo. It probably goes into C tier. I think Drake in randoms is better than Drake in ranked. It's a tanky HE spammer, but that's about it. That's about it. It doesn't have any of the utility of these guys. It's roughly on the Vallejo tier. Neptune is a masochist ship pick. You play it for memes. It's fun. It's shits and giggles. It's not as bad as Takahashi because you can actually slot radar on it, which brings you utility. And Neptune actually has really high DPM. We're talking really high AP DPM, by far the highest of tier 9. If you get to farm broadsides, you do a lot of damage. But there's a million ships that love shitting on Neptune. Cruisers, destroyers. Like, Neptune's biggest issue is really like... the Edinburgh has a smoke firing penalty of, I think, was it 5 point... Let me check, let me double check this. I think Edinburgh had a smoke firing penalty of 5.5 kilometers. That was the Edinburgh, which means... And then there's the Minotaur that had a smoke firing penalty of 5.4. So you got 5.5 and 5.4. But then there's Wargaming, and tier 9 needs to be extra fucking garbage. So you end up in this really awkward situation where you got a 5 km hydro, but your smoke firing penalty is 6.6 kilometers. So it's 1 kilometer worse smoke firing penalty than both the tier 8 and the tier 10. Which means if you try to play this thing smoke, you can see what I've been playing it, you're really easy to flush out of your smoke. DDs can park 6 km away. and you can't see them, you can't hydro them. Even if you leave the smoke, you can't catch them, but they can just fuck you over by the smoke throwing penalty. Obviously, it's got a massive fucking citadel. It's got absolutely no armor. Even worse than anything is the fact that it has a stepped citadel, which means that shells that on other cruisers might, for example, go through here and overpen, like you bounce here and you go through here and overpen, that does not apply to this ship because Neptune has this thing, which means shells coming in from every angle basically have a high chance of citadeling it. And the firing angles are garbage. So, yeah, it's a D tier ship. I'd say Radar Neptune is still more useful than an Azuma and Ibuki because you can catch, you do DPM and you can catch enemy ships, but yeah, it's yeah, my bike was stolen. They broke into our bike storage and stole my locked bike from a locked storage, so that was really cool. Not very happy about that. Eger. Considering how much other garbage there is here, I don't particularly like Eger, but Eger in ranked is not nearly as bad as Eger in randoms. It's pretty tanky. It's can push pretty well. It's got 63k health, which is honestly kind of scary for a cruiser at the tier. The guns overmatch light cruisers. The dispersion is of course all over the place, but you do have German Hydra as well, and you do have the heal. And cruisers kind of struggle to citadel you as well. And more importantly, you also get torpedoes, so you can YOLO in. So Eger in randoms is significantly worse than Eger in ranked. Eger in ranked can actually be pretty damn good. It can do things. It can actually do things. I would argue the Eger would be pretty good if some CC didn't do anything testing. I don't know what you're talking about. We've never heard about secondary Eger. And honestly, Eger might even be... I don't know if you'd run the secondary build on it, but with the upcoming 12.10 Captain skill change, where you can buff your secondaries and your torp. The issue, though, is Eger secondaries don't do that much damage. They are pretty shit, mostly because you don't have improved dispersion. So I don't know if you've even built the extra range on the secondaries. Secondary Eger for 12.1. No, I don't think you build it. I don't think you build it, because I tried secondary, what was it called? Marseille, that had the same dispersion as secondary Eger, and we got the range to 12.5. I think on Eger you can get it to like 12 kilometer range or something secondary, but they're hilariously inaccurate. In fact, they're mostly going to be used for close range, for which you don't need to build secondary range, so there's no point building it. So no, I don't think you're gonna build that new. I don't think you're gonna build that new skill on the Eger at all. So no reason for that. But I'd say maybe strong B, potential A ship. Strong B, potential A. Kind of depends on what you're up against and what map you get. Really, if it's a crew, it's kind of hit and miss. Some things just shit on Eger really well. But it's pretty good considering it's a non-radar cruiser. It's probably going to be one of the few non-radar cruisers that's going to make it this far up. Roon, it's an HE spammer. The biggest issue with Roon is you can't push in anywhere. You meet Alaska, it's GG. Yeah, but that applies to everything. Nothing here can fight Alaska and not win and win. Roon, no armor. Really poor turret layout. It's all in the back, which is okay for randoms where you can kite and HE spam, but once again, in ranked, that's not really what you want to do. Roon's HE DPM is not really that good. It does have the benefit of being German, so it gets that improved German HE pen, and it's got pretty good arcs, but honestly, it's just an HE spammer that brings very little to the table. I just don't consider it value. I think it might still be better than Azuma and Ibuki because Roon can Hydro and Roon can YOLO. Azuma doesn't have torps to YOLO with, and Ibuki angles is a garbage, you just blow up. Roon, yeah, it's roughly around here. It's not very good. It tends to have a pretty trolley citadel. I will give it that. I will give it one thing, and that's that Roon tends to be painful to citadel at closer ranges. At range, it's pretty easy to sit this thing, because you plunge into this dented citadel, but at close ranges, unless you got improved pen angles, actually citadeling this thing is basically impossible. So that allows it to pull off some really stupid YOLOs, because it does have some decent-ish torpedoes. But besides that, yeah. Schroder, haven't really played it. For randoms, it seems garbage. For ranked, I think it might go better, because secondary ships are always better in ranked than in randoms. But I'm not going to rate it, because I don't really know where to put it. I'd probably estimate it's roughly around C tier. It's fun, but not that good. Roughly around C tier would probably be my place on it. Siegfried. Siegfried is like Eger, but the guns actually do a bit more. Siegfried kinda is like Eger, but the guns do a fair bit more. Do we have it here? We don't have it here. Shit. I wish I could show it here. Siegfried's gimmick is, of course, he's got 380s, so it actually overmatches a lot of the ships on the list. And it does catch ships off guard and blow them out of the water. The issue, however, is it only has 6 guns. If you're ever forced to shoot HE in the Siegfried, you might as well throw in the towel, because you're basically doing tier 2 HE, tier 3 HE DPM. We're talking 60k HE DPM. See, that's Siegfried's HE DPM. So if you're ever forced to do that, you're completely fucked. You're completely fucked. You're irrelevant. AP DPM is also the worst across the board. So if you're not scoring sits with the improved dispersion and the pen, well, you're also kind of a waste of fucking time. You're not doing any damage in the thing. You have basically the same hull, though, as you do in the Eger, but I think the DPM might be just too garbage. I think the DPM might just be too fucking bad to overcome. Like, you need to be scoring flat citadels 24/7, and if you're not, you're just losing out. It's got the tankiness, though, and you can occasionally catch the potato off guard, but I don't think it's better than the radar cruisers. I'll probably put Siegfried somewhere here. It can torp, it can YOLO, it's got the German hydro. It's pretty tanky, but the DPM is just... It's the worst of all tier 9s. It's the worst HE DPM, and it's the worst AP DPM. So, yeah, that's just ish. That's just ish. Dimitri Donskoi. Dimitri Donskoi is pretty good. I'd say Dimitri Donskoi is probably a pretty strong B tier. I don't think it quite deserves to be A tier, because it does get blown out of the water pretty easily. And Dimitri is really good at kiting away and farming, but not as good at pushing in and getting things done. But Dimitri's gimmick is that it's got a 12 km radar, which is super strong, but it's not the super short one that the Riga line gets. It's a 25 second, and you can run the mod to buff it to like 30 seconds. So you kind of get a 30-second 12 km radar, which is huge. The firing angles are pretty good. The issue is, of course, the armor is mostly 25, so if you're forced to push in, you're very easy to blow the fuck up. The ship is also generally pretty easy to citadel. There is like layered armor, but it's not really that impressive, and the citadel itself is one big box from back turret to front turret, clearly above the waterline. Cruisers, battleships depth strike it exceptionally easily. Cruisers can do it quite well. 15% fire chance isn't the most impressive either, but the arcs are really flat. The firing angles are generally pretty good on the ship. The Donskoi is... I'd say it's a pretty good ship. It's okay. It can, or if you get open maps, like it kind of depends on maps, but for example, if you queue something like Okinawa, which is a big open map, where the Donskoi just gets to sail around and farm, Donskoi is pretty damn good. But if you get close range maps where you're forced to engage in closer fights, Donkey suffers really heavily, so it's not quite up there. Kronstadt might just be A tier. The guns are obnoxiously trolly. But the thing has 71k health, which is just completely absurd amount of health for a goddamn cruiser. The Citadel, well, it's supposed to be semi-easy to hit. Well, first we can show the armor on it. It's somewhat easy to farm. Well, somewhat easy, I say, because you can get the concealment down to... Wait, we're not running concealment on this captain? Oh, shit. Okay, can we change to concealment captain? Check that. Okay, 12.7 conceal. 12.7 conceal. You do have your spotter plane, and you do have your radar, 12 km radar on it as well. The guns are extremely trolly though. It's completely hit and miss what you do, but the AP pen on the guns is ridiculous. Like, really, really ridiculous AP pen on this 305. So match as well, you do have radar, and when you start pushing in this thing, the noses are matchable, but it's actually a pretty small part of the ship. The rest of it is just a shit ton of armor, 230 millimeters of armor. The Citadel sits here at the waterline, slightly above the waterline. So the thing can be a Citadel, but it's trolly enough that I don't find it that consistent. It's trolly enough that I don't find it that consistent. But if you're forced to like kill this thing nose in to get rid of it, and you have to farm through 75,000 health, add in, this is not the correct captain, add in 4 heals and a Kuznetsov proc on top. And you have to farm through all of that shit to actually get to it. It's eesh. It just sucks to get rid of. I laugh at Krons in my BB. Well, if you get the angle against it, it's not really much of a problem. But Kronstadt actually has better AP pen than the Siegfried. And Siegfried has 380mm guns, but Kronstadt has that Soviet magical pen where the 305s actually have better penetration than the Siegfried. So this thing can Citadel, I think most tier 9 battleships at like 15 kilometers. At 15 kilometers, you can Citadel most battleships in the game. So Kronstadt pushing in with the 34% torpedo belt, 75k health, and just like steamrolling shit is fucked. The issue is, of course, if you can hit. Because the guns are so hit and miss. If the guns were better, it would be up there in S tier with Alaska. But the guns are the definition of troll. The actual definition of troll. The guns are all over the place. They can have really good dispersion at times, and they can have absolutely garbage dispersion at other times. So it is what it is. But it reloads pretty fast considering how much damage the guns do. 16.3 second reload. Then you add in shit like top grade gunner and stuff on this thing, which you obviously build for. And this thing actually has better AP DPM than Santander, better AP DPM than Eger. In fact, better AP DPM than Alaska. So it can absolutely do work. It can do work. It's just hard because of its RNGesus. Its RNGesus plays such a role, whereas Alaska has much better dispersion, which easily puts it in the tier above. But like 452mm pen at tier 9 means you can Citadel Musashi at 15 kilometers easily, through the cheek as well, easily. Izumos, I think you can basically Citadel most BBs. I think you can pretty much sit. Actually, his turtle like now it's worse than underneath here. It's worse here. 76. Yeah, you can Citadel Izuma at 15 as well. Basically, you can Citadel most babies. Lions and these you easily Citadel, very easily Citadel. Kron doesn't have improved pen angles, no. It's one of the few Soviets that doesn't. But the sheer pen on it and the sheer tankiness on it means that it's kind of a pain in the ass to deal with. It's kind of a pain in the ass. It's really low profile as well, and it's just so healthy. Riga is an easy A tier for me as well. Not everyone agrees with it, but Riga has an incredible armor profile. Not as good as Petro. It doesn't quite reach Petro's armor profile, but Riga has multiple silly things going for it. First of all, the concealment is 12.1. The radar is 12. So you can just push in, second you're spotted, you do spotted radaring, and you instantly catch anyone who's spotting you in a radar. So keeping Riga lit as a destroyer or a light cruiser or something is always fucking risky, because he can just always counter radar you. So that sucks to deal with. The other issue is, of course, the armor on this thing. It has a 35mm deck and upper belt, which means no tier 9 battleship can actually overmatch this thing. Not even 460mm like Musashi. You can even bounce Musashi shells. It has a big icebreaker of 40mm. So nose in Riga, it can get overmatched here. The nose is larger than Petro's nose, but it doesn't take nearly as much damage as other cruisers. In fact, I recently posted a Riga game from where I played on NA with Citizen, and I just rush into battleships with this thing and just crush them. So the tankiness and the armor layout is already a good nod in its favor with 50k health, radar, hydro, all this tankiness. But then there's of course the guns, which are 220mm Soviet guns. Now, you think 220mm? Okay, well that's nice, but it's really not that special, considering there's 203mm guns all over the place. But let's see, let's add something here. We can add, well, this is probably a good, because many of you have the add this thing. Many of you have Eger. They're pretty close to each other if I remember correctly. And then we can add like normal, we can add some normal American cruisers here. We can add a Buffalo to the comparison. To give you an idea, this is Buffalo's penetration here. This is Riga, this is Eger. So these 220mm guns are generally closer to super cruiser pen than normal pen. In fact, I don't think are there any cruisers that even come close? Are there any cruisers that even come close? St. Louis, maybe Brest? Brest has 330s. Yeah, Brest is actually a really good pen. Brest is really good, even better. But generally speaking, the other heavy cruisers sit here. The Riga will sit roughly at the place of the super cruisers. It's more than just that though, because you have improved penetration angles on the Riga. You have 50 to 65 degrees improved pen angles, and you have short fuse AP as well, which means, well, you score very consistent damage with this. You can score very consistent damage with these guns, and close enough you can punch Citadel battleships, angle DDs, you can get full pens on. There's a whole lot of stuff that these guns can do, and they're just really good at it. The range is good. Biggest weakness is if you have to spam HE in it, which is obviously something you never want to do. Riga's HE DPM is garbage. You shouldn't get stuck in it. You're basically sitting with Alaska HE DPM. You don't really want to use it, but generally speaking, you should never really even be forced to do so, unless you're at the start you're radaring destroyers. But Riga is for me a pretty easy A tier ship. If Alaska didn't exist, this would be S tiers for me, but this thing exists. Brest. I think I actually liked the Brest. Quite a bit. It had a fair things going for it. It was fast as hell. It was surprisingly stealthy, actually, as well. It was surprisingly stealthy, wasn't it? For, like, a really heavy cruiser. It was stupidly stealthy. It sat at something demented, like... 11.9. 60k health. 330s with absolutely absurd penetration. 24-second reload. It's more of a battleship in a cruiser slot than anything else. And it has the reload booster. 15-second reload. Heal, speed boost, hydro. I think I like this ship quite a bit. I thought it was quite strong. The armor was not that hot. Overmatchable, absolutely. I think it was pretty hard to Citadel. Yeah, it's pretty hard to Citadel. The Citadel is... It is an overmatchable turtleback, but the Citadel is waterline. So, needs a bit of RNG. Can absolutely get dev struck, but not that easy. Pretty squishy though. The health pool might be a bit misleading. It eats a lot of damage, but the guns punch hard and the ship is stupid fast because of the 20% speed boost. The reload is the issue. I'll probably put Brest. I remember playing it and enjoying it. I'll probably put Brest into a weak B tier. Because, I mean, you need to play, it needs to be played correctly though. You need to be using the speed and the guns to push quickly into crossfiring positions, which can be pretty difficult to pull off. But I remember thinking it was really fun to play. I think it's a B tier for me, roughly up here on the par of these things. Carrot. We never bought the carrot. I think carrot is old enough. No, we did have a carrot. That's generally not a good sign that the last time I played this ship chat, I was running a camouflage, which is called, That's generally not a sign that I particularly enjoy the ship. If the last time I played it, let's see, what was the thing? What was this thing just... It's got a lot of health, but... Yeah, the same kind of Citadel thing. I think Carrot was pretty hard to Citadel, but I think it ate a lot of damage. Terrible handling. Terrible handling. Terrible turning, terrible rudder. Pretty damn fast, though. Concealment is pretty decent at 12, and you got 305s. But I remember, what was the issue on it? Was it just it didn't do any damage? Oh, it does very little HEDPM. 97k H... No, sorry, 102k HEDPM. Shit, that's really bad. That's actually really bad. What dispersion? Battlecruiser dispersion, I assume? What's the fire chance on this? 27th with a 22-second reload. That's not going to be a lot of fires, is it? 6 fires per minute average. That's the same as Takahashi. Jesus, that's bad. That's worse than Roon. That's worse than Kronstadt. You need to push flanks in this thing. Did it come with... Gimmick was Hydro, 20% speed boost, so it's actually really fast. It's really fast. Yes, you need to, but man, it's big. Look how big it is. My god, this is like a barge. It's actually fucking gigantic. Like, it's so thick. Jesus. No sleek cruiser, this one. This is a thick. But yeah, it seems like a punching bag. And that's how I feel fighting this thing. It's always felt like a punching bag. Besides being a punching bag and having a... Oh yeah, it had a quad triple for 10 guns. It was weird. 22-second reload is really brutal though, because... Shit, yeah, no, that's just really brutal to deal with for a cruiser. Yeah, was the pen any good on it? Penetration, let's see. AP pen. Worse AP pen than Azuma. Yeesh. Same fuse. I haven't played it in such a long time, but there's generally a reason I haven't played. I think the firing angles, I don't think they were that good either. It just seems like a zero threat punching bag. It's probably still more useful than this because of the speed and the tankiness, but I can't see much other value for this thing besides being a high-speed punching bag. St. Louis. Wasn't this thing buffed recently? Do I misremember? Do I misremember, or didn't this thing get like a big chunk of patch recently? Oh, it was on Russia. Shit. They didn't understand to buff it on EU. Shit, never mind that. St. Louis is in this weird spot where it's not as good as Henry and it's not as good as Charles Martel. It's a long-range HE spammer. Man, 41k health. We're running... Well, what are we running a Lighthouse on? I guess we've been running a Lighthouse on. Wait, what the fuck is this? Double rudder? What the fuck is this build? What's the default rudder on this thing if I've been running double rudder on this thing? What the fuck have I been doing? St. Louis. 10.2 second rudder. It's not. I don't think double rudder is the way to go. Then one rudder is fine. But it's a ranged kiter in ranked. It's pretty fast. Not that stealthy though. To be fair, we're not running the correct build. Let me actually switch some. I want to see. What stealth do we get on this thing? Oh, you have to run last stand because it's not a Henry. The tier, everything below the Henry had on the French line had really easily breakable rudder, so it was mandatory to run last stand. Just building this to see what we end up with. 11-7 conceal. That's okay. Mostly you ended up HE spamming in this thing. Same downsides of carrots, none of the benefits. What's the DPM on this thing? It's... Where is it? Oh, there. Okay, Azuma HE DPM. It does have a real life booster. Significantly worse flight time, though. Significantly worse flight time. Pumps out a lot of shells. How's the fires per minute? 7.4. That's kind of middle of the pack. It's not bad. It's not great. It's a selfish HE spammer. It's kind of, it doesn't bring any utility. I think I'll just put it up here with the rest of them because it doesn't really bring anything to the table. Like when people bring these ships to ranked, I'm always like trying to figure out what are you bringing. And most oftentimes well, you don't bring anything. You just sit there, do your own thing, farm, kind of waste of space. But in this is probably D tier. It's probably even worse. But in this it brings sap and the smoke, which is nice. But shit, we don't have it right now. It's in the tech tree. But in this is just bad. But in this issue is like, look, if we look at Venezia. We can look at Venezia's beautiful. Okay, can I fucking preview? Here. Look at Venezia's beautiful armor scheme here. Huge icebreaker. Huge icebreaker. Spaced bullshit armor of 40 and 165 right here for a total of 205 millimeters of armor. Despite the citadel being big, it's got a lot of protection on the way to reach it. That thing is not easy to citadel. But then you have Brindisi, and yeah, the armors isn't spaced the same way. 150, and look at the size. Wait, I want to show you the size of this citadel. Oh, this is all exposed citadel. There's not even any layers. It's all exposed. It's citadel is exposed right here. There's no spaced armor. There's no nothing. It's just 150 millimeter exposed citadel. And it's fucking gigantic. But then this is one of my favorite cruisers to shoot in a battleship. Because it's so easy to blow up. It also has, I remember, not the best firing angles. The concealment isn't that good either. It's just, you have your exhaust smoke, but you're basically forced to use it to just stay alive. It's got sap, but you're not gonna win any prizes with that shit. SAP DPM is 187k, which is not really enough. And considering how the biggest issue with shit like Brindisi is when you're forced to farm German battleships pushing into you and you just do 0 damage. Like, at least the other HE spammers can kill the things that are pushing into it by cooking them. But in a Brindisi, an Alaska, Kronstadt battleship, whatever, pushes into you, and you just run and get smashed. It's... Yeah, no, I'm putting it into D tier. Neptune is more useful with the radar, but it's down here. You're not fucking bringing anything. You're kind of a burden. Dalian... What was Dalian's gimmick? I haven't played Dalian. It was because I wasn't that excited about the Pan Asian cruises back then. Dalian was what? The Sejong with flatter arcs? It's got pretty good DPM all across the board. It's got pretty good DPM across the board. Pretty good torpedo DPM as well. 10 km torps. It seems okay. It's a light cruiser though. It's what consumables does it have? Dalian. Just the smoke. Oh, no hydro. And that's it. And it has 27.4k health. And does 33 knots. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's kind of a suicidal cruiser. I can't rate it then, but kind of high risk ship right there. High risk ship right there. Sejong is actually not as bad. Sejong is not that bad. Mostly, like, Sejong has its issues, but Sejong does one thing really fucking well, and that's deal damage. Sejong does absurd levels of fucking damage. Sejong is like, I don't want to put it in A because it's not a good, but I think it's a B tier ship, the Sejong. It's that ship, like flat broadside, it's too thin to actually get citadel. Like it's got that bullshit technology where where the fuck are you? Penation. Yeah. Oh, we haven't grinded this on you. Wow, I played that so much on other servers. Yeah, but the thing with this thing is, good luck scoring a citadel on this dumb ship because it's so fucking thin. If you just sails flat broadside like this, you're gonna struggle to actually get sits on it. Your shells just punch straight through it before you have time to arm, unless you got short fuse or you're a cruiser or whatever. The nose parts that our match is actually fairly small, so if you maintain your angling, you actually got 32 millimeters of plating. We're talking Jinan levels of armor, so you can actually bounce almost all AP. Your big nemesis is of course the fucking Musashi and shit. But generally speaking, angled, a lot of bounces, full broadside, a lot of overpens. It's trolley as shit. In terms of torps, you got the 4x4, so 4 per side, which is 12k range, 17.9k. They do a million damage. Wait, what the fuck just happened? Okay, I wanted to look at the equipment on it. Clearly not available. Clearly not available. I click go to equipment. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Fully upgraded is what, 28.98. Not that impressive, but your base conceal is 12. You can get it something like, I think, under 10 kilometer concealment. You got your smoke, you got your torpedo reload booster, so you can vomit out an obnoxious amount of these torpedoes. The heal, well, ideally you just don't want to blow up in this thing. And besides all of that, the range might look daunting. It's only 14 kilometers of range. The DPM on this thing is really high. Sejong's DPM is really high. Korean Flint. Yeah, that's probably an accurate depiction. Sejong has the highest tier 9 DPM of all cruisers. The highest DPM. So Sejong is kind of like, well, if you want to say it's a selfish cruiser in the sense that like it's a HE spammer, whatever. But unlike the other things, Sejong just shreds anything that tries to push into it. You can't push into the Sejong. They're buffing it, by the way, in EU. They're giving it a range buff, so it's going to have 15 km range soon, so it's going to be even better. You can't really push into a Sejong unless you got someone to radar and Hydra at the same time to get rid of him. Because Sejong has, well, 30k more HE DPM than Seattle, which is already a shit ton of HE DPM. But he's also dropping that absurd level of torpedoes on you. And with the torpedo reload booster, you can just saturate the waters with torps while you're spamming HE and smoking. And your fires per minute was something fucking stupid. It was 13.5 fires per minute that you set in the Sejong. In comparison, Ibuki has 7.8 average fires per minute. So, yeah, you vomit torps, you get overpender bounce, and you set shit tons of fires. The shell arcs are garbage, but if you get islands with maps with island cover, you can just park behind basically any island and just lob shells over it. It's obnoxious as fuck. It's obnoxious as fuck, and Sejong is one of those ships that can really quickly, if you get to do it, cook shit like Kronstadt and Alaska. Because if Kronstadt and Alaska parks nose in at an island, Sejong is the one that just sets like 4 fires on you all the time. Just vomits out shells on you. Generally, people are too dumb to play Xeon. Yes. Generally, people are too dumb to play it, which is fortunate. So it's not actually that much of a threat as it could normally be. Most people just park in the smoke and get torped or something. It's really good. Luckily. But if it's played better, it's really, really strong. Shell arc will be flat? No, it's not. The difference isn't that large. I tested it on the PTS just recently, the buff Jinan arcs. They're a bit better at range, but they still go. They're still very arcing. Johan the Witt. Funny. Yeah, what else is there to say? Funny. We played it quite recently. Funny, but actual trying to carry games in this thing. It's got an icebreaker. It can push in pretty well against BBs. The problem is you got no torps, so you're gonna have to use your guns to punish them. Affectionately named Johan the Shit instead of Johan the Witt. It's basically a D tier ship. I think it's more useful than these guys because you can push in and you can airstrike ships in cover. Yeah, no, it's actually better in randoms than it is in ranked. But it burns for 60 seconds and yeah, no, it's down here in this tier. One Spake, haven't played it, don't know. Andalucia, I actually liked Andalucia. I thought Andalucia was really strong. Didn't we play it just now on... Shit, we just played it. Didn't we play it on Russia? Spammed a lot of Andalucia. I think we grinded it. What, 14th season? Andalucia. Yeah, this ship was really good. This ship was really nice for ranked. That thing has a shit ton going for it. Let me check. That shit has a lot going for it. It has... 11.7 concealed, 37.8 knots. It's fast as hell. It's got good torps. I think the torp angles were pretty okay. They're not perfect, but they're kind of okay. Oh, you got the burst fire gimmick. 234mm guns. Keel. What was the armor like? 40mm, 27. Armor isn't that good. You can kind of... Oh yeah, but Citadel is troll as shit. You got triple layered Citadel. You got the fucking triple layered Citadel. So if you're not giving flat broadside in this thing, there's so many ways to troll that shit. And like super Pepega armor on this thing. Fire chance is 18. Now, normally this ship I would say has pretty good fire chance, but in my hands, obviously not quite so. But it's not really the best at starting fires. What was the DPM on it? Let's see, Andalucia is slightly better than Roon. Not really that impressive. The issue is the engine. Shit, that's such a big weakness, though. We can't despite the fact that I have that win rate, we can't underestimate the engine. The engine on the ship is complete garbage. Complete garbage. Like, you guys don't understand how shit. This got it. Wait, let me see. Let me check my own channel. Let me check my own channel. Shit, that we got. Don't we have a recent fucking clip of this? Let's see, top 30 days. Did we play it in the last 30? I think 7 days. Yeah, is this shit? Yeah, this is like, was this the Andalucia experience? My engine is broken. People complain about streamers having bitter RNG. Could I get some of that? Could I have some of that fucking fantasy streamer RNG that I keep seeing people talk about?
121 hits,
my engine
2
is repaired.
fires.
Pog, I can accelerate for the first time in an hour. I can't wait for it to break instantly again. Yeah, that's the engine in this thing. That's the fucking engine in this thing. The engine is complete fucking garbage. Complete fucking garbage. Which means you have to spec last stand. You have to spec last stand and thing. The gimmick burst is really good, but it's no way it's up here in terms of utility. Maybe we put it probably somewhere here. Somewhere here. The burst gives it a lot of utility because you can insta-tap cruisers. The pen is pretty good, and with the burst you can one-shot cruisers, and you're pretty good at farming, but you have to spec class stand to deal with the engine issue. A good player in Andalucia is really frustrating because it's hard to kill. It's up there, absolutely over fucking Sejong. I don't know, man. It's good. I think it might be better than this, but I don't know if I can in good faith put it higher. I think I've had better success in Andalucia than I have in Buffalo, but I'm not sure if I can put it above the Buffalo in terms of utility. It's Bursting DD is pretty strong. That's fair. Bursting's okay. Maybe we put it as a weak B. Weak B. Weak B. Fine. Hector is 12 km rate. Hector is kind of troll. Hector has a lot of DPM, pretty good range. It had that 12 km weird ass radar. It was a 9 km radar. No, no, shit. What was it? It had, no, that was the other one. That's the tier 10 light cruiser, not Hector. That's Brisbane. Bro, remember when Wargaming promised us that the reason why they're nerfing some radars and changing some radars is because they wanted to unify the values so it was easy to keep track of. And then we have Brisbane, that's a light fucking Commonwealth cruiser that has 12 km radar, and then we got Hector that has 9 km radar. And then we got Minotaur that has 10 km radar? What? Like there's no fucking consistency. Now Hector had the crawling smoke, that's the one. A crawling smoke and hydro. That was the Hector gimmicks. Good DPM, pretty good range. And I think it could single launch torps. I remember again being blasted out of the water by some Hector single launching torps up my ass. That's my memory of the Hector. The torp DPM is actually really good on it. 12 km torps. Yeah, really fast reload. Pretty usable torps actually. But it blows up pretty easily. It's a smoke HE farmer. That's pretty strong, because you can get much closer, less vulnerable than many others to farm. Probably put it in somewhere in the C tier. Probably put it on soon. It eats a lot of, it blows up really easily. I think it blows up almost as easily as the Neptune, but it's more usable. Santander. It would be E tier if it wasn't for the fact that it's kind of like a cockroach. You can step on it, and then it crawls out from under your foot, and then you step on it again, and then it crawls out from under your foot. But it does no damage. It's like a zero threat cockroach. It's really garbage, but it's like a D tier. It's really garbage. It just doesn't die. It has radar though, so okay, yeah, it has radar, so we put it here. But the thing is, you're not gonna do anything with your radar. You're literally not gonna do anything with your radar because your AP overpens destroyers are bounces on destroyers. Getting full pens on a destroyer is like a blessing from Iron Jesus himself because it happens so fucking rarely. It's nothing like the St. Martin that actually does damage while being an unkillable cockroach. Santander is an unkillable cockroach that does absolutely nothing. Santander is the best counter to Alaska. It doesn't even have HE, man. It only has AP. It only has AP. It's so fucking tragic. It is actually so tragic. No, it just that thing sucked. That thing sucked dicks. It did get improved pen angles though, right? It did. Thank God for that. But the AP threshold is 25 millimeters. That's the issue. The AP threshold is 25 millimeters, which means the shooting DD is overpen, and you don't have any HE. It's no. These ones I haven't played, so I don't want to rank those that I haven't played. This would probably be my tier 9 ranked cruiser list. This would probably be it. Generally speaking, if I see these, I think, that's not bad. And if I see these, I'm like, oh yeah, this is fucking great. If I see anything from D and below, I'm like, well, this is awful. This is awful. This is absolutely awful. Common denominator for all cruisers not in A or S, they die when facing Alaska. Yeah, basically. That's pretty much a rule, yeah. Everything here just blows up against Alaska. These guys can't put up a fight. That's basically it. Well, a Flamu biased list. True, true. True. A list made by Flamu has a tendency to be extremely Flamu biased. I'm actually not gonna deny that's an astute observation.